Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Hey guys, breaking down some rolling from one of my subscribers, Chris, who I got to meet personally, and he's rolling with a purple belt, the guy who's on the bottom, another guy I know personally, Jody. And this was quite a long rolling session, so I've actually just cut this straight into some of the parts that Chris had some issues. And so Chris is working on his attacks here, and he ends up going for the armbar control, and then ends up losing the position. So here, sits into the armbar, a little sloppy, which we're going to talk about in a bit. And then ends up getting his hips facing upwards towards Jody's head, but makes the excellent call of bailing on that position and staying on top. So Chris, I'm going to do a little instructor bit on this as well, but the fact that your leg came over and you're planting your foot onto the mat leaves a lot of room around your opponent's head. And so you're not breaking his posture, and then you possibly cause a risk of some injury. You have the Kimura grip, but you're not extending your arms, so you're not internally rotating your partner's shoulder. And then you end up collapsing onto your right hip here. And so this also prevents your ability to be able to internally rotate the shoulder properly. And while you've threaded your left leg through, you wouldn't have the space to get into the triangle. And it allows Jody to be able to start escaping out that back door. But you react very well, and you make sure to at least stay on top. All right, so we're going to focus on what went wrong with this armbar situation that you're in. So you started to try and sit back into the armbar, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that you brought your leg over and you stepped like this. The problem with this is look at the space between my leg and Kevin's head right now. Nothing is happening. In fact, you even had a little bit of external rotation in your hip here, and so this can actually be a risk depending on if I fell on it and the level of flexibility that you might have at that given moment, depending on how warm you are, it could actually cause injury. What we prefer is to bring your leg over, Rob calls this just the Hogan leg drop from like WrestleMania. Bringing this leg over and sitting on our opponent like this. What this does is it starts to isolate my partner's shoulder, and it starts to break his posture immediately because I'm just leg dropping right on top of Kevin's chin here, turning his chin away. So I would rather create vulnerability as I do this motion. So instead of stepping over like this, creating space, very traditional way of doing it, but I think this way is better. Here, sit on your opponent's head. From here, bring ourselves into the armbar position. Now, your Kimura control, I believe you had the Kimura grip from here. It was quite weak. We want to be thinking about extending our arms outwards so we're using frames to access levers. It's going to conserve energy and make it more efficient. And it's also more effective in the sense that I'm opening up Kevin's elbow away from his body. So here, by extending my arms and punching his wrist down to his near hip, his elbow gets opened up away from his body. Here, I'm always punching like this to create that bend. I don't want his wrist, shoulder, and elbow relatively in a straight line pointing towards me like this, because now he's going to be able to extract that arm out like this. I want affecting his structure significantly here. All right, so after coming out of that armbar control, Jody starts to turn up into turtle. You spin behind to the other side. And as you're establishing chest to back connection, you start moving into attacking the turtle, mirroring your right leg against his right leg. Very good movement. The reason why I ended up switching or just cutting straight to that armbar control and cutting about 5 minutes of the rolling footage out is that Jody's been letting you work through a bunch of dominant positions, and you're doing a very good job moving through those positions in the hierarchy. So I didn't have anything really to critique. Now here from this position, as you're losing back control, you're posted on your right elbow in good base, and you're going to withdraw your right leg so that you can start resetting the back or looking for the armbar. Very good awareness. But here as you go for the armbar, look how your arms are parallel along Jody's arm, and there's space behind his shoulder and his elbow, and so he's going to be able to just turn in and withdraw the elbow. You need to fill that space, looking to get your chest against the back of his arm, your shoulder against the back of his arm, your bicep against the back of his arm, say with the Kimura control like I talked about in the instructional part. You need to fill that space so that your opponent isn't able to use the space to just escape. So from here in the mount, you're just staying really low with your center of gravity. You're even controlling Jody's head here. You could try and break his posture a little bit more, cross-facing him, or at least bending his neck off to the side. As he looks to turn onto his side here, onto his left side, you're going to switch into a modified mount and start looking at the back take. So from here, you're gift wrapping, you're going for that, trying to get your arm underneath, but you're not quite successful. You're underneath the elbow, but you haven't threaded through into the Kimura, and so Jody is now turning into turtle. And now you're riding way too high up on him. And so look how you're right above his shoulders, going past his shoulders, but you seem to understand what's going on, so you're adjusting and you're moving your hips back. However, you screw up the deadlift back take against the turtle here, and then there's a bunch of other mistakes that are made that then leads to you getting completely reversed and then also getting your guard passed. So this will be the next section I talk about in greater detail. Here, deadlift motion, great, except you don't put your hooks in and you just kind of pull them on top of you. And now look how he's fallen down. He's really low on your hips right now. You're way too high up. Now he's got knee elbow connection. And instead of occupying the space between his hip and his armpit, you throw your leg over top of his arms. And so Jody's able to spin up into the double unders pass. Now you're posted on your right elbow, but we can see that your shoulders and chest are turned more forward, not in line with that post. And so you fall to the dead angle, collapsing both shoulders to the mat. This allows Jody now to change the direction of his double unders pass to now pass to the other side of your hip. So let's just go over some tips that we can do to fix these mistakes. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that went wrong throughout this process here, and so we're going to just talk about how we can correct those. So first is this deadlift motion that you did from the turtle position. Great way of taking the back, especially when someone's taking their ball and going home just balling up here, as Kevin and I are in this weird position. Don't watch Mom. Here, whatever we want to do to get lever control of our opponent's back, so horse collar is really accurate. I mean, they can be the lapels, it can be whatever you want from here. It can even be seatbelt control. But I'm in this proper deadlift motion. Now the problem that you did is you deadlifted and then you let your hips fall back and then you ended up just kind of falling to the side and your opponent was too low on you and then you never had the hooks put in and we lost like this advantageous angle. So what you want to do is deadlift to create this separation of the knees and elbows and then immediately put one hook in. If you're flexible or explosive, you can absolutely like pull your opponent up and then just jump in with both hooks and fall down, but we don't want to expect everybody to have to try and do this, so we're just going to create a nice hip angle here. As I lift Kevin up, I'm going to throw one hook in and then I'm going to start falling to that side and applying the control to the strong side here. Here, let's lift it a little bit more. So as I lift Kevin up, I throw this in, and now I'm falling to the strong side here, and now look how my head is falling next to his head. So I got the proper placement to start looking to go right for the chokes. As you fell down here, you had neither hooks in, and then Jody had strong knee-elbow connection, and so from here what you did is you threw your leg over top both. Bad call. We're not controlling the inside space. We have no rotational control over our opponent. From here, I would have rather you just get a lapel grip, something on the other side of his body, build up onto his elbow, utilize this leg as like a butterfly hook to get the weight off of your leg, perform a technical stand-up, move into like leg drag position or into side control. It was not the right call at that time to be in this position, and as your opponent has good structure, I can't get in here, well, I'm going to throw it over top. Because then what ended up happening is Jody got double underhooks and started turning into you and going straight into a pass. Now, as you start going into the pass, you were actually up on your one elbow. I think you're up on this elbow at first as you started turning into you. What happened is you didn't move your elbow and your chest started getting pointed towards your opponent, and so then the angle became bad and you ended up falling back onto your shoulders. As we're in this position, if you turn back down a little bit, if I'm up on this elbow, I need to make sure that's constantly tracking, and because he's rising, I need to try and keep my shoulders above him. So as he's trying to finish this pass, I build up onto my hands. This arm's gonna grab over to his lat. I'm gonna start trying to use my chest to break his posture here. So if Kevin's trying to lift the right side of my hip up, because that's what Jody did to you. So as Kevin's trying to lift that side, I'm driving it down heavily. If he tries to go double unders to the other side now, lifting that side, I can start looking at pushing his head away. And because I'm on my hand, I'm really mobile with my hips. I'm gonna be able to just keep Managing the range with frames and hipping away. Your base, your post wasn't changed. It started getting too close to your body. Then it started to rotate, becomes weak. That's why it failed. Then you got hit with like the single unders. It looked like you might have been looking for the elbow escape, the elbow push. So turn even more here. As we're in this position, hand to the elbow. And as he starts to bring this leg across, I'm pushing, I'm building up into base from here, hipping away. If that was something that you're looking for there and you weren't able to get it, then he was obviously keeping a nice knee-elbow connection or keeping his elbow in really close to his body. So as we're here, I'm going to try and grab up the wrist. Turn again, this angle. Grab up the wrist to be able to push this up, and I'm looking to turn my knee down. As I turn my knee down, I'm looking to bring my knee to the side of Kevin's head and use my shin to start trying to break his posture. From here, I might be able to just push his arm and hip away. There's a roll that ends up happening off of it sometimes where I'm able to actually start going here and looking at reversing my opponent or sweeping him. Or you can look at doing like a barrel roll, vampire roll, where as I'm here and he's trying to get this off, this elbow's too close and I'm lifting my hips so I can use this mobility now to accelerate my right leg away to turn in. We temporarily have no frames in place at that point, so you've lost a lot of range balance, you fucked up a long time ago. Obviously we don't have a lot of options. Your opponent hasn't beat your hips yet. Use that last bit of momentum here to access a lever, get your hips off the mat and turn with him, because this is the way he's turning me, so to keep myself in alignment, I have to turn my head, chest, and hips in the same direction. Then as he tries to push my leg over, I circle all the way through. My leg doesn't touch the ground here, so without Kevin, I'm here. This is the leg that's getting passed over. I drop it, and I circle it all the way through. Here, I accelerate it, bring it all the way through. Nice little motion to practice solo as well, but we need to accelerate that movement as fast as possible because we are risking a back take. So now for the first time, we're no longer seeing you in the controlling dominant position, and we're going to be seeing how you're working to try and escape. And what are you doing as defensive movements? Right now, Jody, that dirty bastard Jody's trying to wrist lock you, it looks like. But you don't seem concerned.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
You cannot expect to effectively move your opponent by grabbing the gi like this. Look how much the cloth is moving. That is distance lost, and you immediately got mounted, and you basically deserve every bad thing that should happen to you at this point. Look to actually, in that situation, you could frame the hip even, but look to get your arm back so that you can actually try and use your elbow to lift your opponent's chest off of your chest so they no longer have direct rotational control. And look to get it back in front so you can actually possibly block a crossface and start working on a systematic set of escapes. So Chris, obviously this was a pretty light round between you guys, but I'm really impressed with your top control. You said that you're trying to work on moving through a hierarchy of better positions and submissions, and you're trying not to give up top position. You do very well with that, besides the one mistake. What I'd like to see you step over to is now drilling and practicing more of escaping bad positions, working on your defensive movements. At blue belt, your offense is exactly where it should be, if not even a little bit better. Your awareness in the positions and when to bail to stay on top is excellent. So now it's just about rounding out your game and making sure you're as effective on bottom as you already are effective on top. So thank you for the footage. I hope you found this video helpful.